tuning in to Purse Empowerment TV. I'm your host, Shani Curry-St.Vil. And if you've been following along with our series this month, we've been talking about ways to make sure that you have some cash to send your children to college. So, interesting enough, we have talked about how to make sure you don't make any errors on your FAFSA so that you make sure that you can qualify for the most amount of money. We've talked about taking your children on a college tour. And this week, we are talking about making sure that your C+ student can get some cash for college, okay? Now, I'm not one of those brainiacs. I was not in the top 1% or the 5% of my class. I did not have a SAT score that was out of the roof, but I definitely went to college and I definitely got some cash to do so, okay? So one of the things that if you have a student, they're a C+ student, right? They're a C+ student, they kind of feel a little discouraged, like, okay, I do want to go to college, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford this because I didn't get a whole lot of money. No one is like shelling out money at me because I don't have a 4.0. So that they're thinking that that's not their scenario, okay? So the first thing that they have to do is get connected, all right, to their community, right? When you get connected to your community, you have the opportunity to serve the community that you are part of. When I graduated from high school, I had over 4,000 hours in community service. It was crazy. I qualified for Silver Knights. It's not because I had the highest GPA, but they said one thing about this girl: she knows how to show up and she knows how to serve, okay? And doing all of that serving qualified me for tons of scholarship money. So if you're looking through some different scholarships, you may be able to offset those applications, not because you have a 4.0 and not because you have the highest SAT score, but simply because you're showing that, hey, listen, not only am I intelligent, but I can also serve. And let the greatest among us serve. So that's one thing. You want to kind of leverage how you serve your community, okay? Whatever it is. For me, it was feeding the homeless. It was visiting shelters. I volunteered for a teen magazine, things that I definitely had a correlation to. I would do some editing and different things. Just figure out what it is that you can offer up to your community in exchange for some service. And then you'll be able to leverage that on your applications, okay? Another thing is, I was an RA, right? That's a resident assistant. Sometimes I look at some of my friends' student loans and it just blows me away because sometimes we graduated from the same school and I had $14,000 in student loans, but they would have like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in student loans. I'd be like, are you a doctor? You must be a doctor, right? And they go, no, girl, I ain't no doctor. So anyway, part of what I did in that scenario is when I was at school, I was a resident assistant. That means that I was the girl that would make sure that people didn't have boys on our floor. I was making sure that if you were doing a little bit too much drinking, that you need to bring it down a notch. I was the girl kind of checking the hallways, making sure that there wasn't a whole lot of littering going on and things like that, just little noise control. And in exchange, I had somewhere to live for free. They gave me some food and they also gave me a little stipend. So that's another thing about being creative, okay? The other part is to be courageous. Now, when we talk about student loans, a lot of people that's on the other side of the student loan conversation, they talk about Sally Mae in a way that they just can't stand her. They forget that Sally showed up for them when no one else did, right? I have a couple of friends that are doctors and they have student loans for $275,000. Well, it works out for them because they make $110,000 that year. Now, sure, they're getting dinged on taxation, so on and so forth. But what I try to get them to look at is that, hey, listen, if Sally didn't show up for you, it is likely that you would have not gone to law school. So when we talk about being courageous, it's okay to apply for student loans, especially if you don't have a whole bag of cash to go for it, okay? What I'm saying is that when you get these student loans, you don't want to use the student loans to buy yourself a Gucci purse, okay? You don't want to use your student loans to get yourself an upgraded phone. That's not what the student loan is for. The student loan is for a student to go to class, to pay for their books, to pay for their food. It is not a stipend to upgrade your life. So if you're thinking of ways like, hey, listen, I want to go to college, but I don't have money, you want to make sure that you go ahead and fill out that FAFSA. You don't want to completely shy away from student loans, because student loans can show up for you when no one else will. Just remember in your mind that this money is for school, not for me to stunt and slay. Hello? Okay. All right. So you got a couple of points. You're going to serve your community. You're going to be creative. You're going to be connected. And you're going to get the cash. Now, when we talk about getting the cash, right? When you need to get the cash, you can look up scholarships, right? For a C student. Trust me, they're out there. I got some of them at least 4 to 5 times over, right? A lot of the times what's happening with these scholarships is people don't apply for the money. So some of the A1 students with those top GPAs, they've already gotten some of the top scholarships. So they have so much scholarships that when they get ready to pay back, when they get ready to pay for college, they're getting a check back. That's how much money they have. You understand? And then the me and yous of the world, the C plusers, we fare well, right? Right. So what it is that we can survive, right, off of the cash crumbs, right? The things that are left behind, the things that those 4.0ers and 3.5ers and 3.8ers of the world are not paying attention to, right? This is why they like C plus students. You get it? This is why, because we know how to be creative and we know how to get the job done just for less of the cost, right? Okay, so when we talk about getting the cash, right? Make sure one place that you log on to is fastweb.com, right? Now, if you're also a C student, but you're also, let's just say you're a C student because you're a procrastinator. That's one thing you're going to have to handle, okay? The procrastination. You can't be a C plus student and procrastinate at the same time, right? It's going to have to be one or the other. Either you're going to be showing up really well and you're just getting C's, or you're procrastinating, that's why you're getting C's. You're going to have to deal with that, right? Because when it comes to this next step about getting the cash, this is the one time that you cannot procrastinate, right? You got to get on fastweb.com and you have to look through those scholarships and see the ones that are going to be specifically for someone like you, someone with an interesting story, someone with tons of community service hours, someone that had a lot of challenges, but they are ready to be that first generation college student, or they may be second or third generation college student, but no one thought they were gonna go, but you're gonna be the money shot, right? Alrighty, I do hope that while tuning into this episode, you were able to pick up at least one thing that added some value to your purse, right? And if you're not feeling richer, I'm gonna make sure that you do, especially if you are contemplating going to college, or if you're the parent and you gotta stroke out some checks for going to college, all right? I want you to open up your spiritual purse, Sally Mae's purse, financial aid office purse, whoever's purse, right? Because I'm going to give you some money. Are you ready? I do hope that you feel richer, because every time I connect with you, I feel a whole lot richer. And if you really like this video, I'm going to need you to do 3 things, just 3. Number 1, I'm going to need you to like this video. I'm going to need you to share this video. And I'm going to need you to drop that comment. Until next thing, do at least one thing that's going to put some money inside your purse.